Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, when you're studying for the NMLS SAFE Exam, it's so easy to get lost in the numbers.
Right.
All the ratios, the rates, the timelines. But there's this one area that trips up so many people because it forces you to look away from the spreadsheet and at the actual physical house, the collateral itself. Today, we're diving deep into property condition, repairs, and inspections. But we're not just going to list rules, we're going to get into the why. Our mission is to help you stop thinking like you're trying to close a deal and start thinking like a regulator. To understand why a property might not even be eligible for a loan, no matter how great the borrower is.
And that regulator mindset is everything on these questions. It all boils down to one single guiding principle. A mortgage should never be originated on a property that is unsafe, unsound, or unmarketable at the time of closing. That's it. That's the gatekeeper. If the property fails that test, everything stops.
That really frames it perfectly. It's not about how nice the house looks, it's about risk.
Before we really get into the weeds, if you are enjoying these NMLS Safe Study Deep Dives, please subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know which topic you want us to cover next, or just tell us which state you are tuned in from. It really does support and help grow the channel and lets us reach more learners. Okay, so let's unpack property standards. When we say property condition, what are we actually talking about? It's not the kitchen backsplash, right?
Right. Not at all. We're talking about the core components, the structural integrity, the foundation, the roof, the major systems, your HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and then the basic safety features that just make a home habitable.
And while the specific standards can vary a little from loan to loan,
They do, yeah. But there's a baseline that's non-negotiable for every single loan. The property has to be safe to live in, and has to be structurally stable, and it has to hold its value. It has to actually protect the lender's collateral. Okay, so let's talk about those varying standards. This is a huge focus on the SAFE exam, the difference between government-backed loans and conventional ones. Why is an FHA or a VA loan so much stricter about, say, a missing handrail than a conventional loan might be?
it's all about who's being protected. The conventional lender is protecting its shareholders. But FHA, VA, USDA, they're government insured or guaranteed. So they're protecting the borrower, sure, but they're also protecting the taxpayer.
Ah, okay.
Because if that loan goes bad because the house had a major issue that was missed, the taxpayer's on the hook for that loss. That's why their standards, their minimum property requirements are so intense.
So on the exam, if you see FHA, your spidey sense for property issues should be tingling.
Immediately.
Let's get specific then. What are those red flags? The things that are just immediate, non-negotiable deal stoppers until they're fixed.
You should have a mental checklist. I sort of group them into 4 big buckets. First, structure. So foundation cracks, a sagging roof, any serious water damage, that's huge. Second, the major systems. Faulty electrical, no running water, or, and this is a big one, no primary heat source in a climate where you obviously need one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Third is safety. This is probably the most heavily tested.
Yeah.
Missing handrails on stairs, exposed wiring, peeling lead-based paint, anything that's an active hazard.
And the fourth?
Just basic habitability. A collapsed ceiling,
Oh.
a roof that's actively leaking into the living room, things that make it literally impossible to live there safely.
That health and safety category, it feels like that's the absolute highest priority. If someone could get hurt, the loan just can't close.
Precisely. It's a literal stop sign in the process. Broken glass in a window, exposed wiring. These aren't subjective. They're immediate hazards that have to be fixed.
And that leads us right into the biggest traps on the exam. The idea that these repairs are somehow optional. If a property fails those minimum standards, the repair is mandatory. It has to be done before closing. So let's talk about the difference between a material defect and something that's just cosmetic.
This is the critical distinction. You have to analyze the impact of the defect.
Okay.
A cosmetic issue is just on the surface. Worn-out carpet, ugly wallpaper. It affects how it looks, but not how it functions or its safety.
So that stuff generally won't hold up alone.
Correct. But a material issue that affects the safety, the soundness, the actual structure. The test is, does this threaten the person living there or the long-term value of the house?
Give me an example.
A cracked mirror on a medicine cabinet is cosmetic. A cracked window pane that lets the elements in and compromises security. That's material. A leaky faucet might be minor, but a leaky roof damaging the structure is absolutely material.
Got it. Okay, let's look at how the exam tries to trick you on this. They love to create scenarios that tempt you to bend the rules for the borrower. Let's start with the classic borrower trap. It goes like this. The appraisal comes back and says a broken handrail on the stairs needs to be fixed. It's a clear safety issue. But the borrower says, don't worry, my brother-in-law is a contractor. He'll fix it the day after we close. what do you do?
The answer is always, always that the repair has to be verified as complete before closing, or the loan gets delayed. You can't take the borrower's word for it,
Why not? They seem sincere.
because the regulators don't allow lenders to shift that risk onto the consumer. The property is evaluated as it stands at the closing table. If it's unsafe at that moment, the loan stops. A promise doesn't fix a safety hazard.
That's a great way to put it. It's about the state of the property at closing. Okay, what about the other big trap? The as-is contract. You see a property, it's a bit of a fixer-upper, and the purchase contract says the buyer accepts it as is. Doesn't that solve the problem?
No. And this trips up so many people. The phrase as is a legal agreement between the buyer and the seller. It's about who pays for repairs later on.
So it has nothing to do with the lender.
Zero. It has absolutely no bearing on the lender's underwriting standards or, say, FHA's program guidelines. The lender's job is to assess the collateral risk, and an as-is clause doesn't magically fix a bad roof. If it's unsafe, the loan won't fund, period.
So the exam is testing whether you prioritize a private contract over public and lender safety standards.
Exactly. And sometimes a property is just fundamentally ineligible. It's been severely damaged in a fire or it has no electricity or running water. In that case, the answer might just be to deny the loan because the place isn't functional residential collateral.
And what about occupancy? Does it matter if it's a primary home versus an investment property?
It can, a little. There's sometimes a bit more flexibility for an owner-occupant on minor cosmetic things, but that flexibility never extends to core health and safety issues. Never. The property must be safe. Full stop.
Okay, so since we can't just take the borrower's word, we need professionals to verify things. This brings up another point of confusion. The home inspector versus the appraiser. They're not the same, right?
Not at all. They have related but very distinct roles.
Let's break it down. The home inspection, that's for the borrower, mostly.
Right. The borrower pays for it for their own peace of mind. It's a deep, non-invasive look at everything. An inspection report tells you what you'll need to maintain or fix. It does not determine value.
But its findings can still kill a loan.
Oh, absolutely. If it uncovers a major structural or safety problem, that will definitely affect loan eligibility.
And the appraiser.
The appraiser's job is to determine market value. They are specifically not inspectors. They're not crawling around in the attic. However, they're required to note any obvious, visible issues that affect safety, soundness, or habitability.
So if they see a huge crack in the wall or missing roof shingles?
They have to note it. And when they do, they condition the appraisal. That's what triggers the mandatory repair requirement from the lender. The appraiser flags the obvious risk. The inspector does the deep dive.
And that leads to another exam trap. The inspection waiver. Let's say the borrower is in a hot market and they waive the inspection to make their offer more attractive. Does that mean no repairs are needed?
Absolutely not. The borrower waiving their inspection is them accepting personal risk. It does not in any way mean the lender accepts that risk.
So the appraiser could still flag a problem.
Exactly. Or the loan program itself, like FHA, has its own standards. Those repairs still have to be made and verified regardless of the waiver. Risk reduction for the lender always comes first.
And once a repair is required, how is it verified? You can't just accept a receipt from Home Depot?
No, you need documentation, real proof. Usually that means a final inspection, often called a Form 1004D by the original appraiser to confirm the work was done. Or you might need a certification from, say, a structural engineer. It has to be a qualified third-party sign-off.
Okay, let's touch on repair escrows. This is another area people get wrong. Can't the borrower just set aside money at closing to fix a big problem later?
Generally, no, especially not for a big problem. Escrows are only for very minor, specific situations.
Like what?
Usually things that are weather-related, like you can't paint the exterior in the middle of a blizzard, so you escrow funds to have it done in the spring. But the repair can't be structural, and it can't affect habitability. The key rule is the house has to be safe and livable at closing, even with the escrow. So if an exam question suggests escrowing money for a failed septic system or a leaky roof,
That's the wrong answer.
that's the wrong answer. You can't escrow a major safety or structural problem. The repair has to be done first.
That's a really clear line to remember for the test. So finally, let's bring this back to the MLO. What's our actual role and responsibility in all of this?
We're the first line of defense, the initial risk identifiers.
So we should point out obvious issues we see in photos or hear about from the borrower.
Yes. But, and this is crucial, MLOs don't get to decide what's acceptable. We don't downplay problems or tell the borrower, oh, don't worry about that. Our job is to identify, disclose, and let the underwriters and appraisers make the official call.
And we have to be consistent.
Vitally important.
Yeah.
You have to apply these standards fairly to every single applicant. You can't ignore a potential issue for one person and flag it for another. That gets into major fair lending territory. So if we pull this all together, property condition is not subjective. It's a fundamental gatekeeper for the whole loan process. The regulator's mindset is always, always about reducing risk. Closing on a defective property is a massive risk for the borrower and for the lender.
Absolutely. So when you get a property condition question, just run through that final check in your head. Is it safe? Is it sound? Is it habitable? And are all the required repairs documented and complete? If the answer to any of those is no, then the correct answer on the exam is always going to be delay, repair, or deny.
Exactly. And here's a final thought to take with you, something that connects this to the entire life of the loan. We know these rules are here to protect the collateral. So think about this. How does the severity of an undetected defect, say, a slow foundation crack versus a leaky faucet, how does that affect long-term default rates and servicing costs, maybe years after the loan is closed? It shows you the financial echo of getting this right at the very beginning.
That really puts the long-term importance of these details into perspective. It's not just about passing an exam. If you found this deep dive helpful in your studies, please subscribe, like, and comment. Tell us which topic you want us to cover next, or tell us which state you are tuned in from. This supports and helps grow the channel while also allowing us to reach more learners. Thanks for diving deep with us today.